And okay, and I am going to attempt to share my screen. Um, Actually, first I'm going to introduce myself. Aha, I have an outline. This is helpful. My name is Scott Miller. I am one of two directors of the Mississippi River Paddle Weekend put on by Two Paddles LLC. And this is a passion project for my best friend Todd and I. Todd's going to introduce himself here shortly. But we started this last year for the first time, and it was a big success. We put about 200 people on the river in the different tours and races that we had on a beautiful stretch of the river. And for me, the heart of it all is that as high quality of a wilderness experience as you can get by going to the Boundary Waters or some of the other premier destinations in our country, it's actually available to people right on the Mississippi River. And I just want to promote and share that, particularly here in Minnesota above the Twin Cities, before the lock and dam section. You can often feel like when you're on the river that you are in the middle of nowhere, and it's just stunningly beautiful. And unlike not to disparage the Boundary Waters, but the fact that you have current pushing you on the river is just makes it even more glorious, in my opinion. And it's actually fair wilderness feeling right into the Twin Cities, so it's just a beautiful place. And that's really the inspiration behind all this, is to get people out enjoying the river. So, Todd, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Scott got jealous of my Hawaiian shirt last year on the last day of the race, so he said we had to have matching Hawaiian shirts this year. So that's why we got these. No, I'm excited for our second year as well. It's exciting putting people on the water. For me, I love the logistical challenge on the back end. One thing that some people forget sometimes is just how much time Scott and I and all of our volunteers put into this to make the race successful. And I enjoy that part. And then getting to see everybody, the 200 people on the water, and the 90 volunteers and the 200 spectators and support crew, just all coming together to enjoy the water over the course of the weekend is just a really cool thing for me.
Yes, and then one more person to introduce themselves. We have an absolutely wonderful sponsor of the races, uh, known as the Mississippi River Network, also known as onemississippi.org. And this is the only slash premier organization that's thinking about the entire river and bringing together nonprofits and other interested stakeholders along the entire 2,300 miles of the river in all 10 states. Just a wonderful organization that is thinking critically about the health of the river and how to ensure that it's a beautiful place with good water quality. And there's all kinds of issues. So I'll just give a plug. I know, Michael, you're about to introduce yourself and give us more, but I'll give a plug for being a river citizen, because you get these wonderful dispatches from One Mississippi, and they're not too many, and they're well done, they're well written, and they're just very informative. So take it away, Michael.
Well, that's quite the cue up, Scott. I really appreciate that. Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Anderson. I am the Director of Outreach and Education for the Mississippi River Network. I'm gonna with Zoom, it's kind of fun because we can just zip through some visuals as well. So like Scott was saying, with the Mississippi River Network, our public program is called One Mississippi. For those of you that have been out on the river, right, the river becomes the Mississippi because of all of its tributaries, right, that span from the Rocky Mountains to Appalachia, all the way up to two Canadian provinces down to the Gulf of Mexico, right? This truly is one river, one Mississippi. So that's maybe how it started, the name, or it just was, the old childhood, one Mississippi, two Mississippi, three Mississippi. I'll let you decide, but this is my, I think, third or fourth year working with Scott and Todd. We were able to partner with them on the Mississippi Speed Record attempt. This will be the second Mississippi River Paddle Weekend. And I have the great privilege of living right here in town. I'll throw up a slide. This was actually a presentation I did recently for a bunch of partners in St. Paul. So there you go, the St. Paul Riverfront. And so yeah, had the great honor of being at the sort of finish line of the Mississippi River Paddle Weekend last year, at the big celebratory event. And I tell you what, you folks are if you haven't done it before and you're thinking about it, you are in good hands, right? With Scott, Todd, and the organizing crew. Everything that they have done has been just a tremendous success with not only safety on the river, but also just helping foster that deep connection to something like the Mississippi River. So I can't thank them enough. And definitely would invite everyone, as Scott was saying, to join our River Citizen community. We have over 20,000 people from up and down the river across the country. Heck, we even have a few internationals that care about the river and want to take simple, meaningful action on its behalf. So from armchairs to wading boots, River Citizens are everyday people that the river can count on. And I definitely invite everyone to join the community. It's free. As Scott was saying, we send out helpful emails that just provide different opportunities from outreach events, exciting concerts, things happening on the river, to different advocacy actions, right? Speaking up for the river and making an impact together. So thank you. And when you do sign up, you will get these 10 actions sent right to your email. And so I just encourage you. That's an easy way to receive that list. I'll put the link in the chat again here shortly. And I'll just close it out with this watercolor painting by a true river rat, Mr. John Rusky. And in the background of Scott's video as well, he has a beautiful watercolor illustration of this cartographer and big river guide who's down there in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And we just firmly believe that the more that you connect with the river, connect with its history, connect with its people, the more you fall in love, the more you want to care about it. So I just wanted to thank you all for showing interest and learning more about this Mississippi River Paddle Weekend, and hope to see you within the River Citizen community. And I'll definitely be out there in June as well. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's see. Okay, so the way that this is going to work, we planned for this to go about an hour, and the heart of this is going to be the question and answer session. We want to get answers to your questions, but I do have a brief 10-minute slideshow presentation first, just to go over the basics. And again, we have 2 information sessions tonight. This is the first one. This is for all of the events associated with the Mississippi River Paddle Weekend, except the crazy ultra endurance 150-mile race. So that one happens at 8 p.m. tonight, Central Time. If you want to join that, you can just go to our Facebook page and you can figure out how to register for that. But so this is for all the other events, and I'm going to share my screen now if I can figure that out.
And while Scott's doing that, just a reminder, if you do have questions, throw them in the chat, and I'll make sure that they get answered for you.
Well, I shared my screen, but of course now I can't change tab because that thing is. All right, I'm going to try this again. Let's see. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, am I successfully sharing my screen?
You are, yep.
Okay. Now, can I advance the slide? Okay, so 2 Paddles Canoe and Kayak Races, again, is the name of our little business we did. Todd and I started to run, first and foremost, the Mississippi River Paddle Weekend. Who knows, there may be more events in the future, but for now, this Mississippi River Paddle Weekend, races, tours, music, and food. This is the big event happening June 9th to 11th. The second annual event is happening this June. There's Todd and I at last year's event with my mom's table. You can see her name written on it. That's at the start of, I think, probably the 25-mile race, maybe the 10-mile race. So the Mississippi River Paddle Weekend comprises now 7 different events. I guess depending on how you count, it could be way more than that. But the point is we have races and tours of all different kinds. And so we really have an event for everybody, from beginners to people that want more of a challenge or a longer challenge. So there should be an event for pretty much everybody that wants to participate. And Todd and I are going to try to go back and forth here. Go ahead, Todd.
If you go back to the other one, I didn't look at this one or look at the slideshow ahead of time, so I don't know if we cover this later. But I do want to point out that this year we have the Mississippi River Family 5-Mile Paddle Challenge, and that's a new addition for this year, as well as the Mississippi River High School Paddle Challenge. We did have that last year, but we're trying to enhance that and get more students into the high school paddle challenge. And our relay race went from the 48 to the 25. So I just wanted to point out those changes. And I know we're doing our 150 talk in the next presentation, but that has also added 10 miles this year. And if you want to find out why, you'll have to come back to that presentation.
We want to give a big shout out, not just to the Mississippi River Network, but also to the Minnesota Canoe Association, because they have decided to financially sponsor us, and we really appreciate it. They're sponsoring us in a couple different ways. The biggest one is the community growth sponsorship. They're helping us to buy a lot of infrastructure for the races, which you'll see this year if you come. Some of the new things, I'll have an example here shortly. Probably the splashiest item I'll show you here shortly. I also want to thank Sharon Page for being here. She did the MR25 last year, and we'll hear from her after the slideshow. Travis Fontaine was going to join us, but then got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do some dog sledding, and he asked if he could be let out, and I said, by all means. That seems like a good excuse. So thank you for being here, Sharon. This is a kind of a map, an overview. You can see up there in Brainerd in northern Minnesota is where the MR 150 starts. And then in Clearwater is where the 48-mile race starts. Otsego, the 25-mile. Ramsey, the 10-mile. And then in Anoka, both the high school and the family challenges. All of those events end at Coon Rapids Dam Regional Park, which is a fabulous place to go. And it's where we have our post-paddle party, music, food. That's also where the 7.5-mile guided tour starts. But at the end of that tour in North Minneapolis, everybody gets shuttled back to Coon Rapids. So everybody ends up at the Coon Rapids Dam for a big party at the end.
So last year, just some statistics and facts about the whole event. We had over 200 people that paddled collectively over 11,000 miles on the Mississippi over the course of the weekend. You can see 60 paddled in the 140, 24 in the 48, 12 people did the 48 relay, 30 people paddled the MR25, 28 the MR10, and 53 people paddled the recreational tour. And then not up there, we had 2 people paddle our high school championship race as well. We had paddlers from 18 states and Canada come and join us. The youngest paddler was 8 years old and paddled in a tandem kayak with his dad in the tour, the 7.5 tour. And the oldest was 79 years old and part of the team that won the MR25. And we had over 90 volunteers to make this thing happen that volunteered over 700 hours of their time in various roles.
So here it is, our splashy infrastructure. I'm sure Todd is jealous that I get to this slide since
that's my slide.
he inflated that in his backyard in St. Cloud. But this year, if you do any of our events except for the guided tour, but all the other events at the finish line, you'll paddle through this archway, which we're pretty excited about. This will be in the little lagoon just off the river, just above the Coon Rapids Dam. And your official timestamp will happen as you pass under the, I guess this isn't the golden arches, this is the fiery arches, we'll say. Okay, that was notes for me that I forgot to take out. We'll skip past that one. So we have a lot of philosophical things we put into place with this weekend. One thing is that every kind of self-powered boat is welcome. Surf skis, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, rowboats, anything that's self-powered, a pedal boat, a canoe, solo canoe. If it's self-powered, it's welcome. Also, we wanted a challenge for everyone with an emphasis on finishing. So if you're the kind of person that wants to win the race or win the division, awesome, go for it. But just like in a marathon, most people aren't going to win the marathon. They're going to set a personal goal. And we want to encourage that by giving beautiful finishing medals to everyone, and then giving the top 3 people in every division a trophy. And I'll just finish up our philosophy here. Like I said before, the river's so beautiful. We just want people to get out there and appreciate it. This is just an example of how pretty the river is. This is from my world record attempt in 2021 as we're out on the river just north of Anoka early in the morning. Shout out to the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. They have unbelievably beautiful maps for free that we give out at our races, but you can also order them online for free if you go to the Minnesota DNR website. Just stunning resources. These maps will show you all the takeouts, all the put-ins, all the hazards, any highlights of all the different sections of the Mississippi through most of the state of Minnesota, about the first 600 miles.
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. They also have you have the ability on their website to download the map, and it'll geo-track you when you're paddling using your smartphone or iPad, which is a pretty cool feature to know exactly where you are.
Yeah, that's correct. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then just a couple FYIs. Every event you can buy a shuttle if you don't want to shuttle yourself. And we can talk more about that later, except for the 7.5 tour. That one, the shuttle automatically comes in as part of your registration fee. And then another FYI is that, again, all of the events except for the guided 7.5 mile tour require a race number. That's just important to know because you have to buy some stickers and put them on your canoe. And we can talk about how to do that. But that's just a good thing to know. Wearing a life jacket or a PFD is required in every event too. Okay, go ahead, Todd.
So we just want to give another big shout out to another one of our partners, Paddle Bridge. They're a Paddle Bridge is a collective of guides in Minneapolis that do tours throughout the summer, and we really lean on them heavily to run our 7.5 canoe and kayak tour. They put on over 25% of the people we put on the river was because of the event that they're working with us, and so just want to give them a big shout out.
And this is just a couple of pictures from the tour. Like we said, we had 53 people do this event. It was just a huge success. They really had a great time. You can see how beautiful it is here. And some of these people had never been on the river before. Some of them had barely paddled before. But the river was really high last year, so they got to experience the thrill of really getting pulled through the water. And the guides did an excellent job. It was a very safe, fun event. There was kids, there was people of all ages on this event. And this is them at the end in North Minneapolis. So 7.5 miles from Coon Rapids to North Minneapolis, a beautiful stretch of the river. Like all the events, you go past some islands. Anything else we should say about this event, Todd, right now?
No, just that in conjunction with all of our events, we really do have something for everybody. Whether you've paddled a little bit before and you want to just do the 10-mile race, or somebody who's never paddled at all and just wants to do, feel safe and have a guided tour of the river as well.
And I think the most entry level events we have are this guided tour, and then the family challenge and the high school challenge. I think those are our three most entry level events. Speaking of the high school challenge, like Todd said, we mixed it up this year. It's going to be 5 miles from Peninsula Point Park in Anoka to the Coon Rapids Dam. And we have to thank the Minnesota Canoe Association. Again, they're the event sponsor for this event. It starts at 1:30 on Sunday, June 12th. And I see I screwed up here. So the part here where it says for 1 to 2 parents or guardians paddling with 1 to 2 young people, that's supposed to be for the family event. The high school event is actually for kids in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. So that got a little messed up. But the high school event, it's again, you don't have to be a racer. You don't have to have paddled much. It's just a fun event to come out and paddle. Try to see if you can paddle 5 miles. And I will say these 5-mile events are in the pool of water above the Coon Rapids Dam. There's generally not much current there. Although we discovered that in very high water, like last year when the dam is open, there is current. So it's not a guarantee there won't be current, but this race has the potential to be more of feeling like a lake race than a river race, depending on water.
And then I'll also point out that Roland Ring Jarvie, who had a series of canoe races called the Mighty Miss canoe races from a few years back, has will graciously sponsor up to 30 high school students to be a part of that race, which knocks the registration fee from $50 down to $25. And we can get you a coupon code. So if you have anybody that fits that bill and wants to do it and get a discount, it's really easy and affordable to do. These were our two high school championship racers from last year. They got first place.
And the family challenge, it's on the same course as the high school event, also sponsored by the Minnesota Canoe Association. Here you can see it's flipped. So this is the information for the high school race now. So let me go back. So for the family challenge, it's actually for 1 or 2 parents and guardians. Most often it will be one adult and 1 kid. But like in a tandem canoe, you could put 2 kids in there or 2 adults. But the point is that you need to have at least 1 older person and 1 younger person paddling together. And then we'll have a division. The division will be based on the grade of the oldest young person. So if you have an 8th grader, you're in the 8th grade division. If your oldest kid is in a 4th grade, you're in the 4th grade division. This is these guys did the 10-mile race last year, and they were the only mixed tandem team, which meant that they won first place. So even though they weren't very high in the standings overall, they won their division, and that was true for a lot of people. So they got to get one of our really cool trophies. They got the finisher medal, and everybody gets a T-shirt. So we feel like we have some pretty cool swag to give to people. Okay, so the MR10 race, there's both a race and a tour. And Todd, if you want to just talk about the divisions for these events.
Yeah, so all the races are going to have the same divisions except for the 25, which will have the relay. But we have a solo men, solo woman, stand-up paddleboard men, stand-up paddleboard women, tandem men, women, mixed, team, any team that has 3 or more. And then we have the tour divisions as well. So if you don't want to be competitive, you want that monkey off your back, you can say, hey, I'm just going to join the tour division. So that you can still do that 10-mile, 25, 48, even the 150 has a tour division. But if you just don't want to worry about your time or the competitive nature, you can do the tour. And then we have a relay for our 25. Each section is about 6 miles. And then you're just required to switch paddlers at every stop. So last year we had 2 different teams, team of 8 and a team of 4, I believe. If I'm correct, do it, and we'd love to expand that event and that division as well.
And I'll just add that the only challenge with the tour is you do still have to finish by 5 p.m. So for the 10-mile race, which starts at noon, you've got 5 hours. For the 25-mile race, you've got 7 hours, and for the 48-mile race, you've got 9 hours. So you still have a challenge for yourself to finish in a designated amount of time. You just don't have to compete with everybody, and you can relax a little more. So with the 10-mile race and tour in particular, like I said, there's 5 hours. You're mostly in the pool above Coon Rapids Dam. That's about a 7-mile pool. So you'll have 3 miles of current and then 7 miles of lake-like conditions, unless the water's really high and the dam's open, in which case you'll feel the current the whole way. It costs $50 per person. You want to make sure to register by April 15th because then the price goes up. There is a shuttle available for $15. The way all the shuttles work is you actually drive to the put-in, and you leave your boat there, then you drive to the Coon Rapids Dam, and you park there, get on the shuttle. It brings you back to the start of the event. Then you paddle down, and at the finish line, your car will be there waiting for you. So it works out pretty well. And
here's I was just going to say, insider tip: if you're doing a tandem team, you're both welcome to pay and run the shuttle, but only one of you needs to. You can wait at the start for the bus to come back.
And last year we actually had to move the finish line up 5 miles because the water was so high they hadn't put the safety buoys in above the dam at Coon Rapids. That's an almost unprecedented event. We don't expect that to happen again. We hope it doesn't happen again. So we had to alter the race courses a little bit. All the races were 5 miles shorter, except for the 10-mile race. We had to move the starting line, so it ended up being 12 miles. But you can see Steve Chiodo, who won it. You have 5 hours to finish this event. He did it in 1 hour and 26 minutes. And the water, again, was so high that the slowest team in this event was 2 hours and 18 minutes last year. Now, in a normal year when the water's not so high and you're in the flat water pool, I expect it will take longer. But 5 hours is a pretty generous amount of time that most people should be able to do. And here you can see this is one of the teams that really had fun in the 10-mile race last year. They didn't come close to winning, and that wasn't their goal. They just wanted to have a great time, and they really had a wonderful time there.
Scott, if you'll flip back to that picture just for a moment, I think it's a great example of the race numbers. So you can see 8,004 is their race number that was assigned to them, and they put a sticker on that. And so, like Scott mentioned, that every event except for the 7.5 tour, we do require that our racers put on that number that is assigned to them.
So real quick, like Todd said, the 25-mile race has the tour, but then also has the relay. It starts at Norin Landing in Otsego at 10 a.m. They have 7 hours, costs $60. There's a shuttle. For the relay, you could have a relay team with as few as 2 people if you were paddling a solo boat and you just switch paddlers at every switch spot. Or you could have as many as 8 people. You could have 16 people if you wanted to. The point, though, is at every stop, you have to have new paddlers. So you can switch back and forth. You could paddle the first leg and the third leg. You could only paddle one leg. You can configure it however you want, but you have to switch paddlers at every stop. And then for the 25-mile race, Doug Berg and Dave Dahl, I can't remember which one of them is 79, but the other one, I think they're both in their 70s. They won this event in 2 hours and 22 minutes. Just incredible. And again, the slowest team, they had 7 hours, but it only took them 3 hours and 45 minutes. Granted, it was only 20 miles last year, but still you can see pretty doable to get this done. This just shows you where the relays are. So like the first leg is 7.6 miles. The second leg is 4.5 miles. Third leg, 7.5 miles. Fourth, 5.2 miles. So you can find all this information on our website, and you can kind of plan out which leg do you want to do with your team. And the way that works is, the rest of your team is in a vehicle and meets you at the switch spots. So you just switch between the vehicle and whatever boat you're in. So these are the winners of the 25 last year on the left. And then another participant, I think she might have won the solo women division, or at least placed in it. So happy people out on the river and at the post paddle party here. And then this is one of the relay team. This is the team of 8. Had a good time. Okay, 48-mile race really quick. Take it away, Frosty.
Sure. Starts in Clearwater at 8 a.m. Racers will have 9 hours to get to the Coon Rapids Dam. All of our races, the price goes up April 15th. This one is $70, then it jumps to $80. There's a shuttle available for $20. Last year's winner, Judson Steinbeck and Dan Goltz, they won in 4 hours, 31 minutes. And the last team, 6 hours, 45 minutes. And like Scott keeps mentioning, the water was fast, but even if it slows down some for this year, there's still plenty of time to get to complete the race.
And here you can see the winners of that race on the right, and then another divisional winner on the left. I think she might have been the only solo female, or maybe, I can't remember if she was the only one or not, but I think she got first place, Devin Brown. And then this is my neighbor and a guy who wrote an article about the dangers of capsizing in the Mississippi River for our local newspaper here. They did the 48, and you can see they have great race numbers on their canoe. Somehow, I think they just got that mounted over the gunnel.
Taped to the gunnel, yeah.
Yeah, smart way to do it. So there's lots of options for having race numbers. Let's see now. It doesn't want to advance. Boy. Huh. Technical difficulties. Boy, oh boy. Huh. Oh. Yeah, it won't go past this slide. Okay, well, I'm going to have to do some maneuvering here.
While Scott's doing it, go ahead,
That was
Scott.
the last slide, that's why. Go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to say, before we allow Sharon to tell her story, does anybody have any questions that we can answer? Feel free to unmute yourself and just ask away.
This is Jed. Are there any portages on the 48?
There's not. So all of the races that we talked about today, there's no portages. The only time that there's portages is on the 150. Great. Well, you'll have another opportunity to ask questions, and again, feel free to ask them in the chat as well. But Sharon, do you want to tell your story about racing?
Yeah, I may have less experience in a boat than just about anybody here. If you're already planning to race this early in the season, I assume that you at least own a boat. At the time that I was registering for the races, I'd never owned a boat in my life. So I bought a boat actually in around January, but I couldn't get it out until April. So I hadn't actually been in the boat. I'd only been, like on a 5-mile float trip every few years for my adult life, had no other boat experience. And we decided to get some boats. So we got some cheapy boats. And about a week before this race, we actually got an old strip built canoe. And I was only in it one time and flipped it and went 3 miles. And then a few days later, I was driving to Minnesota for this race. And I actually finished without any issues. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. The thing that I really love about this race is how well organized it was. I ended up doing 7 races last year. And this was the race that I knew I could get all the information instantly by going to the website. I didn't have to contact race directors or make last minute phone calls because I was lost or anything like that. It was so well organized. I can't give enough kudos to you guys for all of the work that went into this. It was just amazing. I know you must have had like a full-time job all year just to do this race. Having 90 volunteers, you just show up and there's like one volunteer for every 2 or 3 racers. I even had my own personal volunteer holding my boat while I got in so I wouldn't flip it at the start line. And he was like a 13 or 12-time MR340 competitor. So he definitely knew his stuff. So anyway, in my 7 races last year, I won my division 5 times. And this race was one of the only ones that I didn't win my division, but I still had a blast. And so I guess I've done races of 3 to 20 mile. I guess this is the MR25 was 20 miles. So I've done 3 to 20 miles. And I figured out exactly what to bring and what not to bring. So that's kind of my superpower is that I made lists for every race of what I took. And then I'd come home and curate them as to what I used. So if anybody has questions about that, I'd be glad to answer those especially, and about anything else too.
And
Sharon,
feel free.
Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
I was just going to say, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. Go ahead, Todd.
Sharon, since you've just started your career and these were your first races, is there anything that you wish you would have known before that first race?
I think the logistics part was really hard to figure out because so many races were different. Some had shuttles, some had no mention of shuttles. I was on Facebook pages trying to figure out how I was supposed to get my car and my boat reunited at the end. But that's not an issue for this race. That's a great thing. If you sign up for these MR races, the 2 paddle races, you can sign up for the shuttle right at the same time. And all the info is right on the website where you know where you're going to be driving, at what time, when do you need to leave that parking lot, and get on the shuttle bus. So I guess something that I learned, and I had kind of just learned it in time for this race, was to make up a minute by minute schedule for what I'm going to do in the morning. So I've got just a one page piece of paper that I take with me that says, by 7:40, I need to be leaving the hotel. By 8:10, I need to be parked in this area. I have 35 minutes to stage my boat and use the restroom. And I think having a list like that is really valuable, because the minutes go by faster than you think when you're getting ready to put the boat in the water. And if there's one little problem, like in my case, I had a rudder on my boat and something was stuck on it and I needed a tool and I didn't have the tool with me, and I left it in my car at the end or whatever. But another racer ran and got the tool that I needed from his car, which was another wonderful moment in the race that people are so willing to help. And we all got our boats in on, before the start time was called.
Well, Sharon, you've reminded me of a couple things. So we'll keep talking to you, but I'm going to share my screen again so I can show a couple things. So here you can see Sharon in her boat. And Sharon, you'd never been in that boat before, is that right?
And I'd been in it one time less than a week before and gone 3 miles, and I tipped over.
But you didn't tip over in the 20-mile race,
No.
right?
By the end of this race, I felt like a pro stripper canoe paddler.
Yeah,
but not a pro stripper, just a stripper canoe.
And I see you've got your life jacket on, you've got your race number, you've got an ultralight paddle, so you definitely have some nice gear there, and you've got a good sun hat too.
Yep, and I'm also a big fan of the sun reflective clothing, so I don't worry about fashion. I just want to not have to put on sunscreen, so I just dress in sun reflective stuff, kind of from toes up to my hat. And the one thing I did forget was to bring sunglasses for the race. I left them in my car, and now that's on my must-have list, because even on a kind of overcast day like we had last year, you can really kind of get a sunburn in your eyes from the sun reflecting off the water.
Yeah. And then those are all great tips. I'll just add a few more. While you mentioned, Sharon, the information on the website, I wanted to point out that every event has a link to a custom Google map, and this makes it easy to know where you're driving to. And you can even use this when you're on the water. So this on your screen now is the custom map for the MR48. So if I go over here to Clearwater and I click on this icon, it'll show me the start of the race here. And I can even get directions in Google Maps right to this point. And I can also zoom in. So you see here, you can zoom in right into the town of Clearwater here. And you can see, oh, okay, where am I going? Oh, I'm going to the Clearwater boat ramp. Okay, that's on the east side of the river. Good to know. Oh, there's the little road off the main road. And it'll really give you good information. These Google Maps are just wonderful. So, okay, there's the parking lot, there's the boat ramp, here's the eddy where we started the race. If I've got a support crew with me or my family member, they could go walk up on this bridge and take a picture of me with the race starting. The Google map is just great. And then there's, I think I need to adjust. Yeah, well, there's various points that you can click on and go to that are along the course. So again, if your family member wanted to take a picture from you or meet up with you, like on the 48-mile race, you may want to meet up and get some more hydration or food. They'd show you right where to go. Like this is a boat ramp called the Babcock Boat Ramp in Elk River, and again, you can get directions right there. And there's one of these Google Maps for every event. So, other questions? I see, yeah, Fred volunteered. Fred is one of our best volunteers. We really appreciated him, and now he's saying he could do even more. Fred, that's so wonderful. Thank you.
I'm just going to give Fred just a quick shout out, because the reason I'm into canoeing, and I think one of the reasons, Scott, that you're into long distance canoeing, is because of scouting. And Fred was my first scout leader. that took me to the Quetico Wilderness in Canada and instilled in me a love of canoeing. And so I just want to give him a big shout out, because I think without him, these races probably aren't a thing.
For sure.
So thank you, Fred.
Yes, thank you, Fred. I found the second part of my slideshow. So my emphasis is on answering questions. So please put questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask questions. That's what we're here for. But I will just mention a few more things unless there's a question. Race Owl is an app that we use in all of these events except for the guided tour. And it's pretty helpful. It requires you to have a working cell phone and to download the Race Owl app. And what this does is this allows the public or your friends or family who are following along to see your location in real time through the Race Owl app. And there's instructions on the website for how it works and everything, but it's pretty neat. And then it automatically logs your start time and your end time. So it's great for data purposes as well. And I think you want to figure out how to have your cell phone stay charged and dry. That's important. So some kind of a dry bag or at least a plastic bag is a good idea. Maybe even tethering it to yourself or your boat. Because I always tell everyone, I'm a very experienced paddler. I've paddled literally probably 20,000 miles in my life. I always think I'm never going to tip over, but it's a dangerous thought. No matter how experienced you are, you have to be ready, because there's little rocks that lurk under the water. There's swift currents, and you just always want to be ready. So you want to have your stuff tethered in or in dry bags or some way that you won't lose your precious items. So this is an example actually from the MR340, but the Race Owl, as you're going, it'll show you like where you're at, which checkpoints you've gone through, your estimated finish time. It's just a great device. And then a couple more things about these events. Like we said, everybody gets a race
Excuse
t-shirt.
me, another question, this is Jed, about Race Owl. Like the MR340, can the Race Owl be populated from multiple devices like InReach and Spot, as well as using the app?
It can, yes. You just have to go through a few more steps. And the links to all the instructions for how to set that up are on our website. We're fortunate that we have almost everybody's carriers has good cell coverage on these race routes, even for the 150-mile race. But what Jed is pointing out is Race Owl does have the capacity to pull your GPS data, not just from your phone, but from a Garmin InReach device, like a GPS, or they have special InReach devices, or a Spot device. And those are the most reliable ways, especially if you're in a place without cell coverage. But most of our racers just use their cell phone, but it is possible to hook up your InReach or your Spot. Yes. Great question.
And Scott, we've got another question in the chat. Just your comments about how to manage water hydration on these races.
So my number one advice is, as someone who at times in my life has been calorie conscious, race day is not the day to be calorie conscious. You're much more at risk of not eating or drinking enough. So especially as the races get longer, my biggest advice is to start with your tank full, both hydration and food wise. Eat a good breakfast, drink a lot of water before the race starts. If you can have a way, if you're trying to be competitive, if you can have a way to go to the bathroom, urination anyway, in the boat, that really helps. If you can have a water bottle or something to use so you don't have to go to shore, especially for like the 48-mile race. The more things you can do in the boat, like eating and drinking, the current will help you along. So you really save time by staying in the boat as much as possible and only getting out to quick do some stretching or to get a resupply of food and water, or to do number two. What was the question? I got way far afield here. Oh yeah, so just
hydration.
Starting with your tank full is my big advice. And then, for example, the 48-mile race where you could be out there for 9 hours, try to keep your tank full. Don't let it get too low. So I think they say you can eat 150 calories an hour or something like that. I'm sure it depends on your metabolism, but it actually does help to eat a little something really every hour or at least every 2 hours, and really drink. And don't let yourself ever get dehydrated. Don't let yourself go hypoglycemic. Don't let your blood sugar get too low. Keep your calorie tank and your hydration tank, because you will it's easy to get dehydrated, especially if the sun is out and it's reflecting off the water. You're working hard. You're out there for many hours. Those are my biggest advice. Bring snacks with you. Bring if you want to drink your nutrition, that's an easy way to do it. There's different powders you can get, Hammer Nutrition, all these things. There's ways to make sure you're not going to get your tank too low.
Can I?
There's go ahead, Sharon.
Sorry, I was just I have a little thing to add to that about the hydration. I tried all different kinds of systems. I found I was always carrying too much water. I would carry like 2 gallons of water, like 16 pounds of water, and all I really needed was 1 bottle's worth for the race. I overestimated, so don't go don't go that way either. But something that I did at home is I figured out how many milliliters of water I need per hour. And then I tried with my hydration system, and I found out that I need to take 7 long sips every 15 minutes to stay hydrated. And so I actually have my Garmin watch reminds me every 15 minutes, and I quick take the 7 sips and keep going. And the other thing is I used to bring all kinds of crumbly foods like those energy waffles and everything, and they're so hard to get down when you're in the middle of racing. And I discovered that in the Walmart sports section, they sell these little like jelly bean things, and they sell these, it's like a stick of juji fruit kind of things that are sticky, and they're really easy to get out of the package, but hard to drop. You pull them out and they kind of stick to your finger. And those things are so good for eating while you're racing to give you some nice sugar energy.
Yeah, I know they
Awesome.
make different gummies and gels. And a lot of people, if you have a pocket in your life jacket, they'll just keep snacks in there. And I know some people use a hydration system where they actually have a hose with a valve on it, and it's connected to a bladder that's either on their back or better yet laying in the canoe somewhere. And they'll clip the hose by their mouth, and then they don't even have to stop paddling. They can just suck off that hose. That makes it really easy to stay hydrated. If you have to stop paddling and open a water bottle to drink, you have to. That's a more mentally difficult to do. Yeah.
If you don't have a hydration bottle, or you're just doing a shorter race like the 5 to 10 mile races where you only are going to need 1 bottle of water, just take a bicycle bottle that you can just open the valve with your teeth, so you don't have to mess around fumbling with a cap.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Awesome. 2 questions in the chat that I can answer real quick. One is from Bruce. Is there a list of required items, PFD, race all, etc.? So on each race tab on the website, there's a race rules. And at the bottom of each race, it tells what are required and what are recommended items to bring. And then Diana asked, will you be discussing volunteer opportunities during this Zoom meeting? And I did put a link in the chat directly to our volunteer, if you want to volunteer or know somebody who wants to volunteer, to send their info. And we need all kinds of different volunteers. So whatever your skill level is, or skill set you might have. So, I mean, if you're a photographer, we can use photographers. If you're like, hey, I'll sell your swag at the start of the races or at the end of the races, great. If you'll be a checkpoint volunteer, awesome. If you're a night owl, and this is probably our greatest need each year, if you're a night owl and you're like, hey, you've got a shift at one of the portages for the 150, I love staying up late. I'll work from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Fantastic. That's just checking in racers, or like Sharon said, helping them start at the start of a race by holding their boat. Or if you own a boat, let's say you own a pontoon or you own a boat and you're comfortable boating on the Mississippi and you want to be a safety boat for us, fantastic. So check out our website at that link, and it lists some of the volunteer skill sets that we're looking for. And if you can, volunteer overnight, and even if you can only volunteer on Sunday, and even if you can only volunteer for 4 hours, that's fine too. We have some people that volunteer 20 hours over the weekend and some people that are just doing 3 hours. So if that's something that you want to do, please sign up or know somebody who might do. Back to you, Scott.
Just a couple more things on the slide here. If everybody who finishes gets a finisher medal, you get a trophy if you finish in the top 3 of the division. And then the post paddle party is really fun on Sunday. Once you finish your race, starting at noon, all the way up until 5 o'clock, we've got live music from Leto and Wright, and then free food from the local Boy Scout troop. So that's really fun. And Coon Rapids Dam is such a fun place to hang out. You can actually walk across the dam. There's lots of cool walking paths. And with the food and the music, it's just a lovely place. So we encourage people to bring their friends and family to that. And
Not to mention they had a person there making s'mores to order for free.
yes, we did. I don't know if we're going to have that again, but maybe. But we are going to have the local brewery, Alloy Brewing, will be selling their delicious brews. And then we have an awards and recognition ceremony at 5:30. And that's really fun because you get to see people from all the different events being recognized.
And we also have door prizes that we give away. So I just want to give a shout out to the Bending Branches, because they've graciously donated a paddle of your choosing if you get chosen. And we give out other prizes as well throughout that award ceremony.
Just a picture of the Coon Rapids Dam with the walkway on top. Pretty neat. If you come to Coon Rapids, you'll want to explore that. Here's just a picture of a lot of the winners that came up on stage at the award ceremony. So that was really fun. And then Todd mentioned how there's rules for every event at the website. There's also a paddler's guide with some really good insider tips and links. So the website has a lot of resources on it. We definitely encourage people to check that out. And then our Facebook page, probably most of you are on that, but if you're not, we do post a lot of updates on the Facebook page as well, which is just Two Paddles MN on Facebook. And we want to thank all of the sponsors for the event. And let's see, I think I've got one. Any other questions anybody has? I just want to say too that I am doing another world record attempt this May. I have a team of 4, and we're going to attempt to set the world record for fastest canoe trip down the Mississippi. So if you want to follow that, just look for Mississippi Speed Record on Facebook, or go to MississippiSpeedRecord.com. That's going to be really fun. We went viral last time and had thousands of people following along, and I think that will happen again. And it's an epic adventure. So just put that out there. And if you haven't registered yet, we encourage you to do that. The earlier people do that, the better for us to organize things. And
Fred Shermock asks for the Mississippi Speed Record, how do supporters contribute to help you out with that?
For the Mississippi Speed Record, yeah, if you go to MississippiSpeedRecord.com, we are trying to raise money because we have to spend a lot of money on gas and food for our support crew. We have T-shirts for sale, and you can also make a donation on MississippiSpeedRecord.com. Yeah. Any other questions?
I will say, just as my closing remark, we do have a lot of information, like Scott said, on the website, but we're also friendly. So send us an email. We're happy to jump on a phone call with you or answer via email. And we want to make sure that everybody that signs up for our races has all the information that they need to be successful.
And I do see some of our 140 alumni from last year on the call, including one of the 2 overall winners, Jim Peckus. He and I can't remember your paddling partner's name right now, but they won the inaugural MR 140, which was pretty cool. They paddled was that a racing kayak, Jim?
It was a Stellar ST21. So yeah, racing kayak. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I paddled it with Patrick McCarthy, was my partner on that race, and it just flew. The water was moving so fast on that it was crazy. So
it really was crazy. It won't be like that every year, but yeah, the 150 is the big event. And what's fun about the paddle weekend is a lot of people we already see, they're coming in at one event, maybe doing the 10 mile, and then they get a feel for that, and then they come back the next year and do the 25, and then come back and do the 48, and kind of work their way up to the 150. Because certainly that's a whole nother ballgame when you're paddling at night and have the portages and everything.
And we have a couple crazy people. One did it last year. I don't know if it's the same guy, Scott, or who did the 140 and then finished on Saturday, and then Sunday did the 48 as well. And I think he signed up again for this year, right?
Well, no, he said he would never do that again, and that it was crazy. But someone else has done that for this year. So, well, thanks so much for joining us. Let's see, any other questions? Andy, I see you're. So we do have some other alumni on here too. Nice to see. Andy, did you do the 48 last year?
No, I did the 140.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This year I'll be doing the 48.
This year, okay, that's right. I don't know, Sharon. Do you have anything to say about the river itself? Did you? I mean, I'm sure you went.
I do because I did the 7 races on like 6 rivers in 4 states, and I would say that river section that the 25-mile race was on is about the most beautiful and safe river that I've ever been on. There were I think I saw maybe 2 boats, that weren't in the race, 2 boats the whole time, motorboats, and they went by far, far away at like half a mile per hour. Very polite. Even though you described the river as fast, to me it could have been a little faster. I could have used some more help. I did not feel like it was like, I had done a race on the Missouri River a few weeks before that, and that was a scary river. And I saw 6 barges in an 8-mile span going past me. And that was just really scary. And I kind of thought that the Mississippi River was going to be another one of those industrial rivers with the whirlpools and the spinning logs and stuff like the Missouri was. And no, it was like super calm and really, really easy to navigate. So yeah, I'd do that race again at whatever level that the water is. Even with the fast current, it was very, very easy to manage.
That's wonderful. I promise we're not paying her. I promise.
I talked my husband into coming, and he's doing the 48-mile this year, so he's already registered.
Nice.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Well, thank you all very, very much. And again, thank you to Michael Anderson and the wonderful folks. OneMississippi.org is where you can become a river citizen. It's the number 1Mississippi.org. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? From any of our alumni or volunteers or new folks?
I just gotta say, the Falls area was fun at night.
Well, if you want a safe adventure, I mean the 150 is pretty safe, but it is a whole nother level from the shorter races. Certainly not just the night paddling, but the portaging, and then what Jim is referring to is there's, especially at high water, there's quite the eddy at the put in there at Little Falls. I think I heard somebody flipped over there, Jim, but I haven't really heard the story there.
Yeah, I liked your comment on the video. They're still up.
I don't even.
And there was a little bit more turbulence a little bit further down. And I looked at Google afterwards, and I guess that's where the power plant empties into the river over there, somewhere over there. But yeah, that was fun. It was good. So.
Well, somebody on the 150 race also had a bear swim across the river right in front of their kayak. That's a whole other level of adventure on that race. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that was kind of fun is I guess the Army has an Army base up there, and they were building a bridge across the river. I was like, oh, get the bridge in after we go by.
Yeah, I think for training purposes, they put a temporary bridge. They build it and take it down all the time. So, yeah, you never know what you're going to see on the river. That's for sure. Well, we have to get ready for the 150 race info session happening in 25 minutes, so we better go. But Michael, thank you for posting all the links. Michael has posted links to join the River Citizen community, as well as links to the next. If you want to come to the information session about the 150, you can still register for that. And I think Michael just dropped the link for that too. So perhaps we'll see some of you in 25 minutes. Otherwise, feel free to email us with any questions, info@twopaddles.org. And thanks again for coming.
Thanks for holding this. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Sharon. Thank you so much.